confirm it's starting to record. Yep, the recording is live. Over to you, Prerna.
Hey everyone, my name is Prerna Sunderraman, and thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time from your busy schedules today to attend this talk. Before I start, just want to wish everyone a happy Friday, and I hope everyone also reads the public service announcement that though this image is full of galaxies and stars, it has nothing to do with it. So let's get on with it. So introductions first. So I would define myself as someone made in India, but is continuing to evolve here in USA. So designer by profession, artist by hobby, and a design mom, a pet mom, a dog mom by choice, because I just love my two dogs, Simba and Maya. So when I say design by profession, my education is ideally in spatial design. So I did a 4-year program back in India to study, to design experiences, and to design spaces to allow them to communicate with people. And when I moved to the US, I continued my education in design, but kind of transitioned over to product design. And while initially I thought that this transition is going to be like, hey, I'm going to leave spatial design back and I'm going to do something completely new with product, over time I realized that it is not so. A lot of principles and process from my previous design education and learning on the job can actually be applied as spatial logic when designing for products. Why I say that is because imagine you're at the start of a product you're trying to sign in, or you're at the front door of your own home. You can actually start seeing similarities right here. So like I mentioned, imagine you're inside your own digital product, or you're at the door of your home or apartment. We can actually draw parallels between parts of both. And this is really crucial now that, physical spaces are really becoming digital, and you can actually imagine yourself inside a product which is now actually engulfing you and is giving you an immersive experience, as opposed to just being in a small device like a mobile or a laptop in your hand. So I would like to tease everyone's mind here, and maybe if y'all can unmute and call out what login could really translate to, or a dashboard could translate to, and vice versa, or just comment on the chat. We can actually do this as a group exercise. And Siva, I'm going to look to you to if anybody says anything on chat, because I'm not able to see
Sure,
that.
I'm happy to moderate the talk. Thank you.
So first thing, like
I'll
we just saw on the slide,
Go ahead.
yeah, login is the main door. Anybody have any ideas of what the others might be?
Let me see. We have a new person here. Hey, thanks for joining. The dashboard might be. Wait, yeah, the dashboard might be the living room.
It could be. Dashboard.
Sorry, we didn't quite catch that. Grace, could you repeat that, please? All right, anybody else? Jose, you want to take a shot? Gulam, do you want to take a shot? What we're doing, Gulam, now that he joined, is we're trying to draw parallels between how do we design a space, experiential design or space design, with how UX happens. And the question that Prerna is posing is she's trying to draw parallels between the different facets of a UX app versus a room that you're trying to design. So per analogy on the left, it says login is kind of similar to how you would design the main door. Dashboard is similar to how you would design your living room, I think. I don't know. And so she's basically doing a quick Q&A just to pique our curiosity. So if you have some thoughts, feel free to share it on the voice or on chat.
I don't know. This is hard.
Design is
So,
supposed to be easy, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking like, for example, child locks will be something that you prevent the user to do certain things. Like when you ask, "Are you sure you want to delete this?" Um,
you can actually, so these are things that came in my mind, but there's no right or wrong answer. I think it is each person's perspective. So let me help us out here a little. So the reason why I call login as the main door is because that's your first entryway into the product. And your main door is your entryway into your home or apartment or any physical space. Um, for a dashboard, if we think like our own apartment or home, maybe family room or a living room makes sense because, especially with open concept living, that's like our main dash.
Hey, Prerna, I think you disconnected. Hello?
yeah.
Give me one moment. Let me see if I can reach her on phone. So I texted her to rejoin. Let's see. You guys able to hear me okay?
Sure. Yes.
Perfect. I think you're back, Prerna. Are you? Are you back, Prerna? I think you're still
Muted. You're
on mute.
muted.
You're still on mute, Prerna.
Hey,
There
Yep,
it
we
is.
can hear you. Yeah,
get Keynote. Can you all hear me now?
yeah, we can hear you. Let me just make sure the recording is going okay.
Okay.
Yep, go for it, Prerna.
Okay, I'm gonna turn my video off just so that network issues don't happen. Let me get back to Keynote. Um, okay, if anyone took a sneak peek at the answers, no worries. Okay, so like I was saying, your dashboard is like your little bit of a hub to get into the other parts of a house. So similarly, you can get into the other parts of the app. Bedrooms maybe they are individual parts or individual pages of an app. So if you were if you were to, click on the hamburger menu, and if you were to go into like jump to different parts of the app, that's almost like every bedroom, which has, a bedroom could be a guest room, it could be another family member's room, it could be a kid's room, or it could be a media room or a study or anything. Um, Back buttons in my head, and I'm really interested to hear y'all's thoughts too. Maybe our door handles. So like a button in an app helps you enter a task and enter to allow the user to get into a mode where they're either editing something or adding something or whatever that task could be. And door handles literally allow you to go into a room, but a lot of times we might forget to, give like a back button. So imagine yourself locked in a room, you have a door, but there is no handle to get back. And child locks, again, I was thinking it to be more like role-based access, where you're really giving a group of permissions and giving it a name like a role, and then assigning it to each member of the family. So like you have maybe the parents, and then you have the kids who may not be able to, use the home like, adults maybe there are guests in the home, maybe there are other family members, maybe there are servicemen who are coming in and, like maybe servicing some part of the home. So in my head, our back is literally like, what are those different people and users who use the home, and what are their intent in using the home? um, is there any other parallels that anyone else can maybe think of? Feel free to share it on the chat or call it out now, or you can reach out to me via LinkedIn or anywhere. I'm always curious to, get into discussions of what these parallels could be.
Great.
Okay.
It's radio silence. That means everybody understood. Oh, Grace has a question on the chat. She says, "What if you have a corridor?" It's a good question.
Hmm. Um, I think a corridor could be more like a breadcrumb where, you're literally trying to, get to a certain part of the app, but you have to really go through like a long process. So maybe, you're doing multiple clicks. Something to keep in mind is these are not like literal translations of, hey, I have a part in product and that, literally translates to space. These are more like for our, like more like to tease our mind as to, just applying spatial logic into when we design products, because a lot of that understanding can be brought over. And similarly, product understanding can be applied into spatial logic, because I think a lot of us might, end up going into realms like AR and VR, where we have to bring physical space into a digital realm. So I would definitely say take this more like a teaser or more like a point of inspiration than a literal translation. I hope that made sense.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was
true.
also thinking. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was also thinking now that Grace brought it up. I hope I'm saying your name right. Corridor should be like, in the security realm, we have honeypots to lure in the offenders. So it could be a corridor or like a vulnerability that you expose intentionally to lure in the hackers. That's all I got. Go for the next one, Prerna. Sorry.
Okay. So now I think I kind of touched upon this. So when we look at these translations, it almost feels like space or the product is just a medium. And we could literally apply an understanding from any discipline of design into another. So um, all outcomes across any discipline of design is really a medium to help users interact, communicate, and collaborate with the world around them. Um, so I think this is really important when we want to, bring design principles and processes from one to the other. So definitely there are takeaways from this. Some of the things that I always keep in mind, there are so many design principles and every discipline has some principles that are very specific to them. But I think three of the main things that's helped me deliver good product design over time has been keep it simple. So whether the product is something like a notes app that, is just intended to do one task, that is help the user take notes, or it could be a product that's extremely data dense and extremely critical, like, products that we design for a cybersecurity realm, or oil and gas, or insurance to, process claims. What's important is the content. And what should be kept simple is actually the interface that helps the user accomplish those tasks. Because if we complicate the interface, I think the tables and the data and everything else that the user is already trying to consume on the page is heavy enough to leave them frustrated and not have a great experience. Second one is make it scalable. So think of the time when, you maybe went into a home and, with the intention of maybe buying it, or think of the home that, you grew up with your parents. um, the home, even if, the four walls and the layout didn't change a lot, the space actually evolved over time to cater to all of the members that lived in it, right? Because it was initially just your parents, and then you came in, then maybe y'all had pets, y'all had guests, y'all had extended family. So the layout kept changing, paint colors kept changing, the furniture kept changing. So spaces, when Or when you're like going to buy a home, you might be like, oh, what if it would be so nice if I could retire here? So when we can have a vision that long for a space, I think while we are building minimal viable products, we should not lose the intent of this product could really scale over time and not be really tied to features that were in MVP, and be courageous enough to kind of revamp and revisit some of those just to, keep it in trend with all of the demands and the needs of the users over time. And lastly, I think it brings me back to the back buttons is be forgiving to the user. Like if we get them into a task, like provide them with that door handle to get out of it as well. A lot of times we assume, oh, it's a web app, we can, or if it's basically hosted on a browser and, we can depend on the back button. But I don't think there is really any harm in providing that additional back button in our UI itself, because now the user has two options and two ways that they can exit a task that they probably just by mistake stumbled into. And all of these, I think, the underlining theme in all of this is, however complex or advanced our product or space, the user that's using it is still human. That's the thought I wanted to leave y'all with, but let's try and dig a little deeper. This is a snapshot of my design process and the parallels with the design process that was when I was doing spatial experience design. You can see a lot of different similarities, but one of the biggest dissimilarity between digital experience and spatial experience is that spatial experience is not forgiving. One of the biggest factors here, as you can see, test and iterate. You really cannot test and iterate a lot when you're designing for spaces because the scale is huge. When it's D-Day, the exhibition or the museum or whatever that space has to open, it has to open. And if anything goes wrong, there's no way to test and iterate on it. It's either you roll with it or you find a workaround to just release with what you already have. Whereas in product design, especially when we're designing for apps and stuff, I cannot stress the importance of user testing because we do have the opportunity to test it either as a mock prototype or as a actual built product before we actually give it in the hands of our customers. That's one of the biggest differences. But I think what's most important between whatever the process you may choose, always ask questions between these phases because this is what helps you frame the approach and also identify the strategy and the tools needed to, deliver that project because each project is unique. And that's the thought I want to leave y'all with today. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And like I said, this is just to tease y'all's mind. I always love to, go deeper into discussing spaces and product or anything that's design. So if y'all want to reach out, y'all can either go to my portfolio and there's definitely a contact form there that y'all can contact me with, or LinkedIn is best. And if y'all would like any follow-up talks, do put it on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to meet y'all again because this is only the tip of the iceberg. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prerna, for taking the time. This was very insightful. I do have a few follow-up questions. I wonder if you have some time to do a quick Q&A.
Sure.
So the first question I had is, having known your background, you obviously came from spatial design, and then you worked with a big company in design consultancy where you had multiple different realms you have to solve for, right? How has that helped or hindered you to focus when you're with a product company like SecureWorks and trying to create cybersecurity related products? Would you think the different experience kind of helped you with taking in inputs, or having to focus on a similar set of product lines all the time is kind of sometimes draining? Like, I just wanted to get your thought on it.
Yeah, sure. And thank you for that question. That is something that always gets me thinking as well, because I think the most important is what you enjoy as a designer. And I would also think that what most people would like to do is kind of mix it up. But to your original question of, has all of this helped you in product design and, deliver what you deliver at your company? Yes, I would definitely say yes, because the biggest difference between a product focused company and a consulting company is that in consulting, you are jumping from different companies that you're helping out, which means you are jumping from different disciplines and different industries that you're having to cater to. So in a year, I have worked on a insurance company who is trying to build a better way to process claims as well as submit claims. So again, it's the claims analyst versus the user who's actually submitting the claim, kind of a scenario, to designing a product that folks maintaining oil wells and seeing which wells are working, what's the oil pressure and things like that, really using to kind of manage all these wells, to a product like cybersecurity, where you're trying to triage alerts, you're trying to manage investigations, you're trying to manage tenants and users on it. But I think the underlining factor in all this goes back to those three design principles that I mentioned, that always remember that content is king. So you need to really kind of be simple in your interface in terms of because that's the main thing that allows the user to interact with your product. And if that's difficult, then they're going to be frustrated and they're not going to have a great experience, which means they might not come back to use the product. Second, make it scalable. Yes, I have released my MVP, but I think we forget about making these products minimal, lovable products as well. And they have to evolve over time. And we have to, let go of some features which we initially thought were great and revisit and revamp. And the last one, obviously, be forgiving. Like, our user is human. We may be giving them absolutely like complex, advanced AI tech stuff, but they are human and they are bound to error.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. I have a couple more questions, but I want to be mindful of,
Mhm.
folks who are on the call. If you want to ask any question, drop it on the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself.
I do have one, which I don't know if it's related, but I'm just curious.
Mhm.
Go for
What
it.
is what is the hardest thing that happens between creating the UX and translating it to the UI?
I think the hardest thing is communication between giving UX to UI, because at the end of the day, when we are planning for this product, right from saying, hey, what
What you disconnected again?
Did she drop off again?
Yeah.
Let me big finger again. Sorry about that, guys. Give me a minute. You there, Prerna? Hello.
Hey, I'm here, and sorry about that. That's happening again. I'm
No
gonna
worries.
turn off video.
Looks like Hangouts could use some good user UX design, I think. Just kidding.
Okay. So back to your question, Jose. I think why I mentioned communication is right from the inception of the idea of a feature to translating it to requirements, to translating it to design, to translating it to UI and actually building it. I think all teams have to be hands on board and really communicate with each other as to what are the feasibility, effort, timeline, and requirements, so that, backend can say, hey, this may not be feasible, or backend can say, this is going to take so much time. UI can communicate with UX and say, oh, this is what you're thinking, but we may have these constraints. So how can we work around that? Because I don't think any part of a product process happens in isolation. So if everyone's hands on board and if we have intermittent design reviews, not just with design peers, but with the team that you're working with, which is your UI team, your backend team, your QA, everyone, then I think we can definitely, reduce the time that it takes during a design handover from design to UI.
All right, cool. Yeah, definitely communication is the key word. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Anyone else who has a question? I have a couple, but I want to be, like I said, mindful, and we have 8 more minutes. All right, I'll go with my question. So, Prerna, the thing that's I'm really curious about is obviously we would all like to have the perfect process, right? So,
Mhm,
what's one thing that you would change after having been through, I'm assuming, agile style of working
mhm.
with respect to your different stakeholders, your architects and your product managers and things like that. I think you touched on communication, but from a process standpoint, can you think of any that you would recommend for a team trying to be more UX inclusive in their approach of designing new stuff?
Yeah, I think one of the main things, like I mentioned, is everyone needs to be hands on board. So if a team that has that has backend and UI communicating and trying to create a POC for something, I would definitely say include the UX designer there, even if it's just a fly on the wall as to, even if it's like just tech stuff, and even if it's going to go over the head, because I'm sure there might be some insights that the UX designer at that point can provide from a usability standpoint and from a long-term perspective standpoint that maybe the team might have not thought of. So it's just like another person giving a fresh perspective on something, because we have been seeing something for far too long. The other one is, if there is an idea that's already been, kind of fleshed out and is given to the UX designer, it is going to come back to you, because the designer at that point will have a lot of questions. And we may realize that, oh, we could have, seen these things much sooner and probably iterated on it much sooner. The other one, I think, in the process is the mindset that design takes a lot of time. Design sometimes need not take any time at all. I think if everyone can even just get into like a war room kind of a scenario or brainstorm, sometimes, especially if we have a great design system in place, a UX designer on the team can just play a consultant role and give the idea that the UI team members can then execute without having spent any time more than 30 minutes to an hour in that brainstorming session. And yes, when we do have discovery type of features where it's completely blue sky and it's completely new, I would definitely say give each part or each team their due diligence in terms of time, effort. But otherwise, sometimes I think a solution is just a question away.
Awesome, awesome. One final question I have, Prerna, is
Mhm.
what would be a recommendation for somebody who's looking to make the transition that you did from experiential design to UX, and how would they shy away from their reservations, if they have any?
So I think the first thing is to drop the mindset that you are leaving one discipline and going into another. At the end of the day, it is design. All your foundations and basics don't go away suddenly because you're changing from one discipline of design to the other. I think finding ways in which you can bring in your understanding and your education, and using it as a strength rather than a weakness. That, hey, I don't know anything about product, but you do know so much about spatial design. And can I apply that spatial logic into product and vice versa? Because as our, as we are evolving, I think really the lines between each discipline of design is really blurring. And especially with physical space converting into digital space, I think it's definitely important to consider all your prior education as strengths.
Awesome, awesome. So, hey, thank you so much for the talk today, Prerna. I hope you can do many, many more on the AE platform. So, if anyone else doesn't have any question, we can call it a wrap here. And hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And if you celebrate Deepavali, அனைவருக்கும் இனிய தீபாவளி நல்வாழ்த்துக்கள். Happy Diwali to everyone. Talk to you all later. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.